The intention of this video is to show you how text relates to the resolution of an image. So to start out, I have two copies of the same image. And to prove they're the same, we're going to look at the image size of each one. So on Elements, I go to Image, Resize, Image Size. And you'll notice that the image resolution is 300 and the pixel then is 2.667 wide and 2 inches high. So this is the document size we're working with. And I'll say OK. I'll now go over to the other image and check it also. And you see it's also 300 dots per inch, 2.667 wide and 2 inches high. So I did that just to let you know there's no trick in what I'm going to show you. I'm going to add text to each image, and I'm going to add exactly the same font and font size to each image. And then I want you to see how it appears. But to make it look different, we're going to take one of these images, let's call it Sunset 2, and we're going to change the resolution of this file. So I will go up to Image, Resize, Image Size, and I don't want to change the pixel dimensions or the image size like we think of it. So I'm going to be sure that the resample is not checked, and I'm going to drop 300 down to 72 pixels per inch. And of course, if you've done this, you understand that the document size will go up. Theory being, the more you spread your pixels apart in an image, the larger the image is. And the more you push them together like a high-resolution file, the smaller the document size is. So now that you've seen that, you know that Sunset 2 is the one at 72 dots per inch. So let me go back to the first one, which is Sunset 1. And I'm going to add to Sunset 1 a copyright, and I'm going to put it on the lower right-hand corner of the image. And so to do that, I always like to put things on a separate layer. So let us create a new layer, and I'm going to go over for the text tool, pick it up. I'm going to look down here at the information in the option bar. So let's pick up the text tool, and we're going to choose the same font, style, and type and size for both of these. I happen to have Arial Black Regular chosen, and it's in the regular style. And I'm going to make the actual image of my thing at 14 points. The leading simply means the distance between rows, but I'm not going to have a second row. And I am going to make the orientation right justified. And that means that with my text tool, I can click in the bottom right corner, and I can go and type a copyright in there, and I would like it to be black in color. So I will go down to this and choose a black color for the font. So I'm going to now go in, and where it's clicked, I'm going to put copyright, which on a Mac is an option G, followed by ML Frost. Just enough to see what a font looks. And we all know, before I close out on this, that I used Arial Black Regular at 14 points, and those we want to be sure we do it on both. So I'm going to accept it. I'm now going to go to the other image, and we're going to add text. So I have the text tool. It's got the same settings, Arial Black Regular, 14 font, and it's right justified. And I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to type the copyright symbol, option G, and I'm going to put in ML Frost. My gracious, look at the difference in that. I went and typed exactly the same font size on these two images, and look at the difference in how they appear. Well, the difference comes from the fact that the resolution is different. So what would cause this? Let's look at the image size box again for Sunset 1. And that's the one where it came out to be quite a large text. So let's go into Image, Resize, Image Size, and be reminded that this total document at a 300 dots per inch resolution is only less than 3 inches wide and 2 inches high. So if you were to print this document set this way, you would have a very tiny document. And the font that we use is not measured in pixels like images are. It's measured in points. And points are definitely related to the size and resolution of an image. So at 300, a tiny image, that text is going to be pretty big in that tiny image. So let me cancel that and let me go to the other one where it looks so tiny, and let's check Image, Resize, Image Size, and at only 72 dots per inch, that image is over 11 inches wide and over 8 inches high. If you think of text as an absolute quantity, and it is in points, so therefore it is not related to the same sizing as images are, the same identical text, when applied to a larger image, obviously is smaller. So there's a logic behind it. And the lesson behind this is, if you create a file like we always have in the past that has your copyright text, and you save it at one size like this, and the actual copyright is its own file, if you open it up and add it, drag it into images, it will not be the same size in each image unless each image you put it on has the same resolution that the text was set for. So if you normally have your images at 240 ppi, then you would be smart to make your copyright text with that resolution so it fits very nicely on your images. And if you happen to have a file you're adding it to that is widely different, you will need to change the resolution of that file when you add the text if you want to keep the size of it. Now we have some choices. We could come in here to this text and we could drag it bigger, and you could make it what you want there. If it turns out that you made an error, you can resize it so that it can then be moved around. So you have control on fonts which are made up of points. They can be resized, which is transforming them, and they don't lose their quality. So if I want to go back to Sunset 1 and I decide that my font is too large, if I grab the corners of that layer, and again, if for some reason you don't have it activated, you can always go up to Image, Transform. Free Transform will get that box, the corners back, so you can resize it. And so when I grab the corner of that and I make it smaller, I want you to notice as I do this and it comes down, look at my option bar. When I clicked the corner of that text layer, I automatically in Elements was put into the Transform tool with Constrain Proportions checked. If I said OK and I didn't have the Transform, if I had Transform checked and got rid of the Constrain Proportions and I resized it in Transform, it would get distorted all over the place. Okay? So I can cancel that. And the default in Photoshop Elements, when you have the text tool and you go to Transform, it will always be, how do I get, here it is. it'll always have the constrained proportions unless you change it. So when I click here, you see it's back to constrained proportions. So it will keep the proportionate. So I can make it any size I want. So if you get into the problem of adding it to images and you run into this problem, the fastest solution is to resize the copyright till it looks appropriate to that. But the reason it came in at a different size was your image files were being expressed at a different resolution. And of course, I want to remind you, just as an extra to this, both of these files are exactly the same pixel size. So if I go back to image, resize, image size, you'll be reminded that no matter what is in the document size window, up here in the pixel dimensions, we haven't changed the actual size of the image. It's 800 pixels wide and 600 pixels high. So let's go back and look at the other one and go into that image, resize, image size box where you have the different resolution. But look, the pixel dimensions of the actual file are still 800 pixels by 600. So all we changed was the document box. And all the document box is, it tells you, if you would print this picture, you wonder what size print you would get? Well, it will depend upon the resolution of the file. Not many of us would print a document at 72 DPI or PPI because you would have poor quality in printing. So most of us print files larger than that. But if you were technically getting to print this one, it would be printed up and it would spread all those pixels out until they reached 11 by 8. And the result is the quality would go down. So when you're preparing a document for printing, you will check the document size box. That's really that, and when you add text are the only times where that really is important. When you're working on images and they will be put on the web or projected, all you worry about are the pixel dimensions. That will tell you how large that file will appear when projected. It's not what's going to happen when you print it. Then you must look at the document window before you print. So I'm going to take the cropping tool. I need to view these fit on screen. So they're not in the way. And I'm going to go and take a cropping tool, and I'm going to set that cropping tool to 8 by 10, and I'm going to be really careful over at the right of my option bar. There is nothing in the resolution box. I want to crop this using the pixels that are in this image, and I want to crop it for 8 by 10. So I will go now and take my tool and do a crop so that it includes everything I want to include. So it has the picture and it has mine. So this is exactly an 8 by 10. So if I do that, then I've got to say, all right, I know it will fit 8 by 10 paper, but will it have enough resolution? So I'm going to go up to that image, resize, image size. And you'll see at 8 by 10, this copy has a resolution of 71.8 pixels per inch. This would not be a printable file. Now, I created it for a demonstration and not to print, but it's important that you think about your files with respect to keeping all the pixels that came with it, so that if you want to make it a large print, you will have a high enough resolution to get a good print. In this case, I made a small file, so it's not surprising at 8 by 10. It's fine for projecting, but it would certainly not be worth printing.